The city night glowed with billboard lights and the distant hum of engines. Amidst the bustle, Marcus Hale walked slowly, his tall, lean figure wrapped in a plain grey coat, a baseball cap pulled low. No one recognized that this 40-year-old man was in fact the chairman of Hale Mart, a retail empire spanning the United States. 10 years ago, Marcus lost his wife in a car accident. He was only 30 then, with a career on the rise. That blow froze his heart. Once a passionate, cheerful man, he became a loner in his vast penthouse, burying himself in work. Friends drifted away one by one, and colleagues respected him, but kept their distance. He was still successful, still appeared on the covers of business magazines, but every smile was stiff. Tonight, Marcus couldn't sleep. He chose his usual escape, making a surprise inspection of one of his stores. This time, disguised as an ordinary customer, he wanted to see how employees lived and how the store functioned without him watching. As he passed the aisles, Marcus observed closely a couple of young clerks lazily chatting behind the register, a shelf of discounted goods sagging, left untended. He shook his head, taking mental notes, but when he neared the employee area, a sound made him stop. Muffled, sobbing. Marcus froze, listening. From beneath the breakroom door spilled yellow light and trembling sobs. "Oh God, what now, Maria?" They cut the dependent coverage. "Lily, still sick." Marcus frowned. He knew the term dependent coverage all too well. It meant health insurance for an employer's spouse or children. In Hale Mart's policy, that coverage had always been preserved for every worker, no matter their rank. How could it be cut? He leaned closer. Inside, the woman's voice shook. "The email came this afternoon. Low-level workers such as janitors and custodians will no longer receive company-paid insurance for their children. Lily just had tests last week. The doctor said she needs to be monitored. I don't know where to find the money. I'm just a night janitor. My wages cover rent and groceries, nothing more." Another voice, probably a co-worker, tried to comfort her but sounded powerless. "Maybe it's a mistake, Sophia. Wait and see." "Mistake? It says clearly effective next pay cycle." "Maria, I'm terrified. If Lily's condition gets worse, I won't have the money to treat her." Marcus felt a sharp ache in his chest. For years, nothing had pierced his heart. Yet that voice, that of a young mother crying for her daughter, struck straight into an old memory. He remembered his own mother crying when she couldn't afford his grandfather's medicine. Back then, Marcus had sworn if he ever succeeded, no employee of his would have to choose between medical bills and a meal, and now was his own company breaking that promise. He drew a deep breath and knocked softly on the doorframe. Silence fell inside. A moment later, the door cracked open, revealing a tear-stained face. Sophia Ramirez. The yellow light deepened her sun-warm skin, framed by strands slipping from a tied-back bun. Her janitor's uniform was worn, a phone trembling in her hand, but her brown eyes, red and swollen, yet still burning with resolve, made Marcus stop short. What's a customer doing in the staff area?" Sophia hurriedly wiped her tears, forcing a strained smile. Marcus hesitated but kept his voice calm. "I was looking for the restroom. Sorry, I must have taken a wrong turn." She let out a laugh that caught in her throat. "The customer restroom's the other way. This is our other world for the ones who clean those restrooms." Her words were bitter yet awry. Marcus gave a slight nod, his eyes lingering on hers. "Are you all right?" "All right. Sure. If all right means waking up tomorrow with a sore back to scrub floors while wondering how to pay for my kid's medicine, then I guess I'm fine." Sophia spoke in one breath, her tone edged with sarcasm. "You're not a therapist, are you?" Marcus's mouth curved faintly. For the first time in 10 years, someone had spoken to him so candidly. "Number, I know how to listen." Sophia gave a dry laugh. "Listening's easy, but the boss in the big office never listens. He probably doesn't even know we janitors have kids who need insurance." Marcus flinched, but hid it well. He wanted to blurt out, "That boss is me." But reason held him back. He still needed to know who had bent the rules, and he wanted to hear more of her voice. She sighed, glancing again at her phone. "I don't mind hard work. I could scrub all day. But reading that insurance was cut. It felt like my heart hit the floor. Lily's only 6. She loves cats and balloons. She needs to be healthy enough to run around. I can't just let her get sick and do nothing." A lump rose in Marcus's throat. In a flash he saw the child he and his late wife had never had a dream of a family, erased in one tragic instant. And here before him stood a young mother, desperate not to lose her daughter. "Slowly," he said, his voice deep. "Maybe. Sometimes the people at the top don't know what's happening below. But there will be a way." Sophia looked up, startled. "You sound like you know the boss. Trust me, if I ever met him, I'd tell him straight. 'Sir, don't cut our insurance. Cut your morning coffee instead. My daughter needs a doctor more than you need a latte.'" Her words made Marcus chuckle, an honest laugh, the first in years. Sophia found herself smiling too, though her eyes were still rimmed red. For a brief moment, in that cramped break room, smelling of bleach and cheap coffee, Marcus realized maybe this was where his heart could be pulled back to life. He adjusted his cap, hiding his unsteady gaze. "Thank you for showing me the way." Sophia nodded, teasing. "Go straight, turn left. The guest restroom is shiny and spotless, unlike the closet we use. Just don't get lost again or you'll overhear more people's private lives." Marcus gave a faint laugh and walked away. But inside, a new determination was clear to uncover who had dared cut his employees' insurance and to see Sophia and her little Lily again, because for the first time in 10 years of solitude, his heart no longer felt completely empty. The tile floor of the employee hallway gleamed, reflecting the dim fluorescent lights that illuminated it. Sophia pushed her mop cart along, crammed with a bucket, rags, and bottles of cleaning solution. Every night was the same. Her shift began at 8, 0 inches the evening, and ended near dawn. As the break room door closed behind her, Sophia took a deep breath, swallowing her worries. She reminded herself she had to keep working. This job was the only lifeline for her and her daughter, but her eyes were still damp. At that moment, Marcus appeared at the far end of the hall. Still playing the role of the stranger customer, he wandered the store, pretending to browse while observing. Just as he was shaking off the heavy weight of their earlier conversation, he heard a sudden clatter. The mop bucket had tipped on the cart. "Oh!" Sophia gasped. A stream of water spilled across the floor, spreading quickly under the lights, and as if fate were mocking her, Marcus's Italian leather shoes were standing right there. Water splashed up, soaking the polished toes. Sophia froze for a second, a bitter thought through her mind. Those shoes probably cost 3 months of my rent. Well, guess I'm working for free this month. She let out a half-awed, half-defeated laugh, then quickly bent down with a rag to wipe his shoes. "Oh God, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. Your shoes probably cost more than this mop's entire lifetime. Please don't tell the manager if they find out. I'm done for." Marcus looked down, his usually stern face cracking ever so slightly. The way she joked was self-deprecating, and the humor laced with humor nearly made him laugh, but he kept his composure. Sophia kept rambling as she dabbed at his shoes. "You could sue me for attempted murder of luxury footwear, but please don't. I still have a kid to raise. Besides, who wants to live with a blood stain? Oops. I mean, water stain on their shoes forever." Marcus cleared his throat, struggling to suppress a smile. "You seem practiced at apologizing with jokes." Sophia glanced up, her brown eyes sparkling mischievously despite still being swollen from tears. "If I didn't joke, I'd probably be sobbing on the floor by now. And you know, crying makes the floor slippery, which means I just have to mop it again. Too much work." For a moment, Marcus could hardly believe it. This woman, who had just lost hope over a cruel insurance email, could still make fun of her own pain. He looked down at his shoes. Yes, they were custom-made in Italy, costing as much as a senior manager's monthly salary. Yet watching Sophia's small, trembling hands wiping them, Marcus realized the shoes weren't worth as much as her weary, defiant smile. He nearly laughed out loud, but instead, his expression slipped back into practiced sternness. "Make sure you wipe them thoroughly. If there's a watermark left, I'll have to send you the dry cleaning bill." Sophia's eyes widened. Then she realized he was half joking, half serious. "Yes, sir, Mr. Picky Customer," she replied with mock formality. "I'll polish them until they shine so bright I can see my own sleepy face in them." Marcus couldn't hold back. The corner of his mouth curved, but he turned away quickly, hiding the smile. "No need. Just dry enough so I can keep walking." With that, he moved to leave. Sophia looked after him and muttered under her breath, unaware he heard clearly. Typical rich folks. Every sentence sounds like philosophy. I just hope the boss of this company has even half your sense of humor instead of spending all his time cutting corners. Marcus paused for a beat, his back stiffening, but he kept walking, showing nothing. As his footsteps faded, Sophia exhaled and chuckled to herself. Well, there goes 3 months' rent for the privilege of one ridiculous story to tell. She bent down to mop up the rest of the spill, but her heart felt just a little lighter. Strangely, the stern man hadn't frightened her at all. Instead, his presence had brought a strange kind of comfort. Meanwhile, Marcus walked on in silence, a warmth rising in his chest. He had nearly burst out laughing at her clumsy but genuine jokes. For the first time in years, life seemed more than numbers and cold meetings, and those expensive soaked shoes to him. Now, they were nothing more than an excuse to come back and see her again. The small office on the store's second floor glowed with the light of a desk lamp into the night. Marcus sat alone in the corner, his laptop balanced on his knees. With top-level access, it took only a few keystrokes to access the entire internal system. His fingers tapped firmly. The screen was filled with a string of emails, financial memos, and benefit updates. Just a few lines, but enough to darken his gaze. Proposal: cut dependent coverage for low-level employees. Projected savings $1.2 million per year. Signed Todd Granger, Regional Manager, East Division. Marcus clenched his fist. This was absolutely not a policy he had ever approved. In his management philosophy, dependent coverage was untouchable. He knew that for low-wage employees, insurance for their children was more valuable than any bonus they could receive. And yet Todd had unilaterally changed it, sending notices down to store level as if it were official orders, all to boast that he had reduced operating costs. Blood pounded at Marcus's temples. It had been years since he'd felt this kind of rage, but he drew in a steady breath, holding it back. More than a decade in business had taught him one thing: to take down a corrupt man, you must let him reveal himself first. He closed the laptop and rose to his feet. If I act too fast, Todd will find a way to deny it, he told himself. Better to watch, to see the real effect on employees. The next morning, Sophia arrived with dark circles under her eyes. She still worked diligently, pushing her mop cart down the hallway, but her face was clouded with worry. Marcus happened to pass by, still disguised as a customer. "Well, hello again, Mr. Picky Customer," Sophia teased, forcing brightness into her tone. "Did your shoes survive yesterday?" Marcus nodded, the corner of his mouth tugging upward. "They survived." Sophia gave a faint laugh, then bent to scrub a stain on the floor. "I wish my daughter's insurance had survived like your shoes. Too bad the almighty boss is probably raising a glass of wine somewhere, celebrating the cost cuts." Marcus stiffened, but kept his voice calm. "Do you really think the boss himself knows about this?" Sophia snorted softly. "Who knows? Maybe he's too busy in meetings with men in thousand suits to care about a 6-year-old who needs a doctor. If I ever got the chance, I'd tell him straight. Sir, instead of showing off your watch collection, why don't you try showing off a list of employees whose kids are insured?" Marcus nearly laughed at the sharp wit in her sarcasm. For the first time in years, someone had dared to badmouth the boss right to the boss's face. And strangely, instead of being offended, he felt relieved, as if her words were the alarm bell he'd forgotten to heed. Softly, in a low but gentle voice, he asked, "If you had a miracle, what would you want for your daughter?" Sophia looked up, startled. Her brown eyes shimmered with a glint of bitterness, mixed with a hint of light. "I don't need a miracle. I just need fairness. I work. I scrub every inch of this floor. All I want is for my daughter to have the same right to see a doctor as any other child. That's not a luxury, is it?" Marcus studied her for a long moment, then gave a slow nod. Her words echoed in his heart like an order he could not ignore. That evening, Marcus drove back to his penthouse, but left the lights off. He sat in the dark, lost in thought. Sophia's image in her janitor's uniform, small hands clutching a rag, eyes desperate yet still capable of laughter, was vivid before him. For 10 years, he had buried himself in cold emptiness, but Sophia and little Lily had found the crack in his armor. His anger at Todd still simmered, but above all, Marcus realized this wasn't just about fixing a policy. This was a chance to live again, to be the man his late wife had once believed in, a man who would never turn his back on his people. He pulled out his phone and reopened Todd's email. His hand trembled slightly with restraint. "Not yet," he murmured. Let him think he's safe. Then I'll pull the curtain down." And in that moment, Marcus knew one thing with absolute certainty. He would protect Sophia and Lily no matter what it took. Her shift ended just before 10. The parking lot was nearly empty, the yellow streetlights casting long shadows across the cracked concrete. Sophia slung her old backpack over one shoulder, her other hand holding tightly to Lily's small one. The little girl chirped a song, her clear voice rising above the hum of cars in the distance. Marcus leaned casually against a lamppost near the exit, looking so ordinary that no one would guess he owned the entire supermarket chain. He had been waiting for them. When mother and daughter came closer, he tipped his baseball cap slightly and offered a small smile. "Hello again, Miss Mop, and the little princess." Lily immediately beamed, pointing at him. "Mom, do you know him?" Marcus chuckled. "Hello, princess. You must be Lily, right? I'm Marcus. Just call me Uncle Marcus." Sophia laughed, then frowned wearily. "What are you doing here? Following me? Number?" "I just thought." Marcus hesitated, then switched to a casual tone. "It's time I got compensation." "Compensation?" Sophia raised an eyebrow. "Yes. My Italian leather shoes met a tragic death in your mop bucket. I'm entitled to a dinner to soothe my spirit. Otherwise," he shrugged, feigning seriousness, "I'll sue you for manslaughter of luxury shoes." Lily burst into giggles, clutching her belly as she toppled against her mother. Sophia, though trying to stay stern, couldn't hold back and laugh too. "You're ridiculous. Who sues over wet shoes?" "I do," Marcus replied deadpan, "and the only court that'll hear the case is the soup diner on the corner. 3 servings, 1 for me, 1 for you, and 1 for the princess." Sophia shook her head, though her eyes had softened. She glanced at Lily, who was nodding eagerly. The child, used to nothing more than a cold sandwich at night, lit up at the thought of hot soup. With a sigh, Sophia gave in. "Fine, but fair warning, if you're some creep, I'll use my mop as a weapon." "Relax." Marcus lifted his hands in surrender, a spark of laughter in his eyes. "The deadliest weapon I've got is bad jokes." The corner diner was modest, its old sign creaking, but inside it was warm. The air smelled of chicken broth and celery, making all 3 stomachs growl at once. The owner, a kindly Italian woman, led them to a table by the window. Lily scrambled into her chair, her short legs swinging above the floor. "I want chicken soup," she cried, "and crunchy toast." Marcus ordered 3 bowls, plus a big plate of bread. When the steaming dishes arrived, Sophia bit her lip softly. It had been a long time since she'd seen her daughter so excited for a hot meal. "Look at her," Marcus murmured, watching Lily eat. "Your princess is dining like she just conquered a castle." Sophia laughed, though a little self-conscious. "Sorry, she doesn't get to eat out much. She doesn't often have hot dinners like this." Marcus was quiet for a moment, then nodded. He didn't say more, but a flicker of sorrow passed through his eyes. Meanwhile, Lily kept chattering stories. She told us about the neighbor's cat named Biscuit, a balloon stuck in the ceiling fan, and how her mum once accidentally dyed all the white socks pink. Marcus listened intently, tossing in a joke here and there. "A cat named Biscuit, so every time you call him, don't you get hungry?" "Yes," Lily giggled. "Mom says that's why I eat faster." Sophia covered her face, laughing. "Great, my parenting secret is out." Marcus watched them, and his heart sank with a strange ache. 10 years of dinners alone, his penthouse table filled only with the cold sound of silverware. Yet here, in an old soup diner, the bright laughter of a child felt like a real home. As the meal wound down, Sophia set her spoon down and studied Marcus with a mix of gratitude and caution. "I still don't understand. Why are you being so kind to us? We're strangers. We don't even know each other's names." Marcus rested his hand on the table, shrugging lightly. "Call it compensation. I lost a pair of shoes, but in return, I got to have dinner with the 2 most delightful people I've ever met. I'd say I came out ahead." Sophia froze, then burst into laughter, shaking her head in disbelief. "You sound like a character from a movie." "Maybe," Marcus replied softly, but at least for the first time in years, dinner didn't feel empty. Sophia went still, not asking more. In his eyes, she glimpsed a sorrow too deep to reach. When they stepped back outside, the night was late. The street lamps cast warm light, the breeze carrying the scent of fresh bread. Lily held both their hands, skipping between them. "Mom, tonight was so fun. I like his jokes, Marcus chuckled. We'll make another date, princess. Lily nodded eagerly while Sophia shook her head, but behind her smile, her heart felt lighter. It had been so long since she'd seen her daughter laugh like this. And Marcus, feeling Lily's tiny hand clinging to his heart, heard a sound in his heart he thought was lost forever. The sound of a home. For the third night in a row, the Hale Mart store glowed late into the night. The ceiling fans clattered, the vacuum hummed down the hallway, and the faint smell of disinfectant lingered. Sophia pushed her mop cart out of the break room, keeping her steps steady so her mind wouldn't drift back to that email. But as soon as she stepped outside, she saw him, the man with the familiar baseball cap, leaning against the wall, holding a large paper bag. "Hello, Miss Mobb," Marcus said softly with a thin smile. "And where's the little princess?" Before Sophia could answer, Lily peeked out from the break room, her tiny backpack still on her shoulders, eyes glowing bright. She ran toward them, her sneakers tapping against the tiles. "You're here," Lily cheered. "Mom, does he have a new joke today?" "I don't know." Sophia laughed, though her eyes stayed guarded. "Maybe he brought a storytelling mop." Marcus chuckled, setting the paper bag on her cart. "I brought supper," he said. "Soup and bread. Oh, and some cat-shaped cookies, because I heard someone around here really likes cats." "Me." Lily shot her hand up high, as if someone might steal the title. "Tell a story. Any story, even a bad one. Just tell it." Sophia blushed slightly at her daughter's bluntness, but Marcus seemed to take it as a warm command. He pulled over a plastic chair by the wall and sat down, leveling his gaze with hers. "Okay, but first you have to eat the soup," he said sternly on purpose, handing her the still warm container. "Storyteller's rule. For every spoonful of story, you finish a spoonful of soup." Lily giggled and nodded furiously. Sophia opened her own container, the steam carrying the scent of chicken and celery. She glanced into the bag. Apple slices, little milk cartons, napkins. He had prepared so carefully it left her unsettled. "Thank you," she murmured. "You didn't have to." "Of course I did," Marcus cut in with playful mockery. "If the princess doesn't eat, she'll run out of energy to listen, and then she'll say, 'My jokes are terrible.'" "I won't," Lily promised. "But tell one anyway." Marcus pretended to think hard, furrowing his brow like a scientist about to unveil a discovery. "All right, why was the mop sad?" Lily tilted her head while Sophia burst into laughter first. Marcus leaned in and lowered his voice, because every day it got wrung out of emotions. Lily laughed so hard she nearly spilled her soup. Sophia steadied her bowl, scolding gently. "Eat slower, princess." "Tell another one," Lily demanded, holding up her spoon like a sign that read, "Encore." "This one's a riddle," Marcus warned. "Do you know why balloons are perfect for sad people?" Lily frowned, deep in thought. "Because looking at balloons makes you happy." "No," Marcus whispered mysteriously. "Because when someone sighs, the balloon gets bigger. It takes the sadness and turns it into a big belly." Lily kicked her heels against the chair, laughing until she hiccuped. Sophia snorted too, hiding behind her soup. She wondered, why would a stranger patiently sit here spinning silly stories just to cheer up a child? And why did that make her chest feel lighter, as if a tight knot had loosened? "Today in class my friends sneaked some cheese," Lily piped up, still giggling. The teacher asked, "Who ate it?" He said, "Not me," but his whole mouth smelled like cheese. "Case closed," Marcus said in his detective voice. "The culprit was the mouth." "Yes," Lily clapped. "And my cat, Biscuit, climbed onto the roof today. Mom had to call him down forever." "Of course," Marcus replied smoothly. "He was training for the Olympic roof climbing games." Lily laughed again, chanting Olympic roof climbing like a magic spell. From a few steps away, Sophia mopped quietly, sneaking glances at him. He didn't flinch, didn't seem awkward in Lily's messy little world. He nodded when he should, asked questions when it fit, and laughed in the right places. It had been so long since anyone besides her had listened to Lily this long. Carefully, she sat on the edge of a chair nearby, mop still in hand as if for safety. "Aren't you tired?" she asked quietly while Lily bent over her bread. "She's been talking for half an hour straight." Marcus looked at Lily, his expression softening. "I think I've been silent long enough." Sophia froze. There was a depth of sorrow in those words she didn't dare touch. Instead, she only nodded. "Well, thank you for the food," she said, voice low, as if afraid to disturb something fragile. "She rarely gets a hot dinner like this." "Then I should keep bringing it," Marcus replied simply, as if he were talking about taking the trash out on time. "If a miracle is just a hot bowl of soup, then let's call it by its real name." Lily finished her soup, wiped her mouth, and looked up brightly. "One more story. Any story." Marcus nodded, glancing at Sophia. "Permission? Go on." Sophia smiled, her voice unintentionally warm. "All right," Marcus began, lowering his voice. "Once there was a little girl named Lily who loved balloons and cats. One night she met her." He flicked a glance at Sophia, trainee storyteller. He wasn't very good, but he had one superpower. "What is it?" Lily asked breathlessly. He could turn sighs into laughter. Every time Lily sighed, the storyteller would chase it, catch it, and blow it into the balloon's big belly. "Yay!" Lily squealed, clapping. "I want a big belly balloon. Then next time, I'll bring one," Marcus promised lightly, as if it were the easiest thing in the world. Sophia chuckled. "So, you're planning to become the official supplier of big belly balloons? If the contract is paid in smiles, I'll sign today," Marcus said. The joke was light as air, yet it made Sophia's eyes sting. She turned away, pretending to rearrange the trash bag. She had spent days forcing herself to be cheerful for her daughter, pretending everything would be fine. But tonight, for the first time, she felt that weight was being shared. In the smallest ways, a soup container, some bread, silly jokes, and a man who listened. "Mom," Lily whispered, tugging her hand. "I like his stories. Can I listen again?" Sophia stroked her hair. "Yes, if you eat well, sleep early, and get to school on time tomorrow. I promise." Lily raised her hand, like she was signing a contract. Marcus stood neatly stacking the empty containers, so Sophia wouldn't have to clean up more. He glanced at his watch. It was past midnight. She still had one last round of mopping to finish. "I'll head to the checkout and grab a few things," he said quietly. "I'll stop by to say goodnight before leaving." Sophia nodded. Lily waved after him. "Come back with more stories, Uncle." Marcus froze mid-step. It had been a long, long time since anyone had told him, "Come back." With such genuine anticipation, he turned back, smiling at them both. "I will." When his footsteps faded, Sophia sat down with a long breath, and for once, she didn't feel exhausted. Lily leaned against her shoulder, eyes drooping, clutching the bag of cat cookies like treasure. "Mom," she murmured, "he's like a lamp. A warming lamp like the one in the oven. Not bright, but it makes everything warm." Sophia smiled, touching her forehead to her daughter's. "Yes, just like that." At the checkout, Marcus bought a few things he didn't really need, a bunch of rubber balloons, some markers, and a roll of tape with cat prints. He didn't know why, only that Lily's laughter and Sophia's words echoed in his mind. If a miracle is a hot bowl of soup, then let's call it by its real name. Maybe miracles were also these scraps of stories, a child's trusting gaze, and the steady smile of a mother fighting her way through hard days. He paused at the exit, glancing back down the employee hall. Sophia was mopping the last wet streak, while Lily sat nearby, quietly counting 1, 2, 3, as if keeping rhythm for the mop. The ordinary sight made Marcus's chest burn warm. For the first time in 10 years, he felt it clearly. There were things money could never buy, but they came willingly to those patient enough to sit, open their heart, and tell even a bad joke. He walked away, smiling to himself. Tomorrow he would return, not just with another bag of food, but with a few more terrible jokes, because in that little break room, 2 people were waiting to hear them. And because those small stories had lit a warming lamp inside him, he thought had gone out long ago. The Hailmart Gala glittered inside the city's most luxurious hotel. Crystal chandeliers sparkled above a wide hall, tables draped in crisp white linens and adorned with elaborate arrangements of red roses. The soft strains of a live orchestra mingled with the lively chatter of hundreds of guests in evening gowns and tailored suits. Sophia did not belong to this world. She wore a black server's uniform, collar button high, balancing a tray of champagne with her eyes cast down. She had taken this extra shift to scrape together money for rent and Lily's medical bills. To her, the gala was a noisy spectacle, where the wealthy toasted with glasses worth hundreds of dollars, while people like her hovered quietly in the corners. She was setting more glasses on a table when the MC's voice rang out full of pride. And now, please rise to welcome the founder and CEO of Hale Mart, Mr. Marcus Hale. Applause thundered. Sophia looked up instinctively, then froze. The man stepping onto the stage, tall and commanding, his features lit by the flood of lights, was none other than the stranger in the baseball cap. The man who had eaten soup with her and Lily, who had told silly jokes that made her daughter laugh until she hiccuped. Marcus! Sophia felt the blood drain from her face. Her heart pounded violently. The puzzle pieces of the past few weeks fell into place, forming a truth that left her shocked and furious. The man she had thought was just a peculiar customer was actually her ultimate boss. "Oh my God," she whispered, her hand trembling so hard that drops of champagne spilled over the rim. On stage, Marcus looked utterly different. No longer the man carrying a paper bag of soup, but a powerful CEO in a tailored suit, eyes sharp, voice calm yet commanding. For 15 years, Hale Mart has been more than a retail chain. It has been a family with hundreds of thousands of employees working hard every day. I am proud of every one of you. The hall erupted in applause again. Sophia stood among the serving staff, her legs heavy as stone. His words sounded noble, but to her they were bitter. So it had all been a game. She thought of the wet shoes, the diner supper, the terrible jokes that made Lily giggle uncontrollably. Had it all been a mask? Was his kindness nothing more than a test? Anger surged hot through her chest. She gripped the tray tightly, fighting the urge to hurl it down and shout, "Stop pretending. You're just a rich man playing a double game." But then, Lily's face flashed in her mind. Her daughter needed her. She couldn't risk this job. She couldn't throw it all away for her feelings. Sophia drew a deep breath and forced herself to move. She continued her rounds like a machine, smiling politely when needed, pouring drinks with a steady hand. Only her heart betrayed her, hammering out of rhythm in her chest. From the stage, Marcus glanced across the ballroom. His speech flowed smoothly, but suddenly his gaze caught hers. He saw Sophia holding a tray, her face strangely calm, her eyes carefully avoiding his. In that instant, Marcus understood. She knew, and his heart clenched. Just as he had feared, Sophia wasn't smiling anymore. The gala lasted until nearly midnight. Guests danced under the lights. Champagne flowed endlessly, and laughter echoed through the grand hall. Sophia, however, counted every minute. Each glimpse of Marcus across the room sent a stab of pain through her chest, as if the very smile she once trusted had betrayed her. When the last guest departed, she collected the glasses, wiped the tables, and stacked the chairs. Her uniform was damp with sweat, her hands raw from cleaning, but she worked steadily, wanting only to finish and escape. Marcus stood near the entrance, feigning conversation with senior executives, but his eyes never left Sophia. He longed to go to her to explain, to say he had never played with her or Lily's trust. Yet in this glittering room, the gulf between a CEO and a janitor-turned-server was unbridgeable. Sophia looked up once and their eyes met. For a brief second, no words were needed. Her gaze was cold like glass between them. Then she lowered her head and resumed wiping the table. At the stroke of midnight, Sophia peeled off her gloves, turned in her uniform, and slipped out the back door. The night wind hit her face cold and sharp. Marcus was still there, just a few meters away, but he didn't move. Sophia tightened the straps of her backpack, her heart heavy. One thought echoed in her mind. Everything that happened had only been the charade of a powerful man. He had never truly belonged in her world. She turned away, walking into the night, leaving behind the echoes of gala music and Marcus's silent gaze following her. The next morning, sunlight filtered through the dusty windows of the old apartment block where Sophia and Lily lived. A sudden knock on the door startled Sophia. She had just finished her night shift and hadn't even changed out of her uniform. When she opened the door, standing outside was Marcus. No baseball cap, no grey coat. Today he wore a simple white shirt. Yet he still carried the undeniable presence of a man she couldn't mistake. The CEO of Hale Mart, the man who just last night had walked across the stage to thunderous applause. Sophia froze. A surge of anger and humiliation rose instantly. "What are you doing here?" Her voice was ice cold. Marcus drew in a steady breath, holding himself calm. "I want to talk. I owe you an explanation." Sophia let out a sharp, bitter laugh. "Explain what?" That you pretended to be some kind-hearted stranger, ate dinner with me and my daughter, told silly jokes only for me to discover the next day you're the CEO. In the end, it was all just a power game. Marcus shook his head. No, Sophia, I never meant it as a joke. Yes, I was in disguise, but at first it was only to see how the stores ran without upper management watching. I never expected to meet you and Lily. Checking on employees, Sophia sneered. Or checking if the poor janitors scrub fast enough to earn their pitiful wages. That's not it, Marcus burst out louder than he intended. He lowered his voice quickly, his eyes flickering with urgency. I never approved the insurance cuts. That was Todd acting on his own. Believe me, I was furious when I found out. Sophia crossed her arms tightly, her stare sharp. The CEO of a corporation, not knowing his own policies were twisted. You expect me to believe that? Marcus fell silent for a moment. He could have countered with sharp arguments, the kind that won in boardrooms. But looking into Sophia's brown eyes, read from sleepless nights, every argument felt hollow. He stepped back half a pace, his voice dropping not as a CEO, but as a man struggling to reach her. I don't want you to think I approached you and Lily out of pity or as part of some scheme. Sophia, I came because I wanted to, because I've been alone for 10 years. Sophia faltered. His tone, his words didn't sound like an excuse, but she forced herself to resist, not wanting to let her guard down. Typical CEO, she mocked, hiding the tremor in her chest. Other people just say, I'm sorry. You of course have to bring up 10 years of loneliness as justification. Marcus didn't react. His lips pressed together, his eyes bright, not with arrogance, but with something raw. In that instant, he looked less like the powerful man on the gala stage, and more like the awkward stranger who once listened seriously to Lily's story about balloons. Sophia's heart stumbled in her chest. She turned quickly, pretending to fuss with the tablecloth so she wouldn't have to meet his gaze. Marcus stood there, his hands loosely clenched. He knew he couldn't erase the sting of betrayal in a single morning, but he hoped his honesty might reveal the man behind the title to her. I just want you to know one thing, he said softly, almost pleading. When I sat with you and Lily, when I listened to her stories, that wasn't an act. That was me. For the first time in 10 years, I felt like I had a home. The air seemed to freeze. Sophia said nothing, but her hand resting on the table trembled faintly. Marcus realized he had cracked the wall she had built around herself. Bowing his head slightly, he stepped back from the doorway. I won't trouble you again, he murmured, but if someday you want to hear another bad joke, I'll be there. Sophia bit her lip as she watched him walk away. Anger still burned, but somewhere deep inside, another feeling stirred. A flicker of warmth she didn't want to admit. She closed her eyes and sighed. He's a CEO, I'm just a janitor. Don't let your heart be foolish. And yet, the image of Marcus patiently listening to Lily's tales about Biscuit the cat slipped back into her mind, carving another crack in her defenses. The top-floor boardroom of Halemart headquarters gleamed under the H halogen lights. A long, polished wooden table stretched across the room, rows of leather chairs perfectly aligned. Every director and senior manager was present. The air was tense, tight as a bowring. The emergency meeting had been called personally by CEO Marcus Hale at dawn. Marcus entered in a tailored black suit. Silver strands in his hair lent him both gravity and weariness, but his eyes burned with a clarity that belied his age. He didn't sit. Instead, he stood at the head of the table, surveying every face. I trust you've all read the recent announcement about changes to our benefits policy, Marcus began, his voice low but firm. Let me be clear. The decision to cut dependent coverage for lower-level employees was never approved by me, and today I declare all benefits will be restored immediately. Murmurs rippled across the table. Some managers lowered their eyes, avoiding his gaze. Todd Granger, the regional manager, went pale. Marcus turned on his laptop, projecting Todd's email onto the screen. The words projected savings $1.2 million per year glared in bold. Marcus enunciated each word. This is a textbook example of sacrificing the vulnerable to publish a report. But hear me now. Our company does not exist because we strip away the weak. We exist because they trust us to protect them. The words reverberated through the silent room. Marcus's eyes swept the table, sharp as steel, but carrying grief beneath. I visited one of our stores. I met a low-level employee who was a single mother. She was in tears, terrified because her daughter no longer had health coverage. She didn't know this policy was the handiwork of one greedy man. But think how many other employees are in despair right now. How many children won't receive care because someone wanted a prettier balance sheet? Todd stammered, scrambling to defend himself. "Sir, I only meant to optimize the budget." Marcus cut him off, his voice cold as ice. "Optimize does not mean draining the very people who keep our stores clean, who stock the shelves, who get products to our customers on time. If that's your definition, you don't deserve a seat in this room." Todd fell silent, his face bloodless. Marcus turned back to the group. "From now on, any change to employee benefits must come through me directly. Let this be clear. Halemart can only thrive if every employee from director to janitor knows they are valued." Around the table, some bowed their heads in shame while others looked up with glistening eyes. Marcus's words rang through the room like a vow. That afternoon, an official notice went out across the entire system. Dependent coverage for low-level employees was fully restored, effective immediately. One bold line in the memo stirred hearts everywhere. "Every employee is part of the family. No one will be left behind." At the store where Sophia worked, the atmosphere buzzed. Employees whispered, some sighing with relief, others near tears. Sophia held her phone, reading the announcement again and again. Her hands trembled. The words "restored benefits" hit straight into her heart. Thank God Lily was still healthy, and now Lily's care would remain covered. She wouldn't be left stranded between hospital corridors and medical bills. In that moment, Sophia remembered Marcus at the Gallagher, distant, and then the Marcus who had sat in a humble soup diner, listening intently to Lily's tales about cats and balloons. The two images, once in conflict, began to merge. Behind the powerful CEO's facade, perhaps there truly was a man who valued fairness, who felt compassion, and who had the courage to defend the most vulnerable. Her heart gave a strange, unsteady flutter. For the first time she looked at Marcus, not only with anger or suspicion, but with a fragile flicker of hope. Softly, almost to herself, she whispered, "Maybe he isn't entirely the man I thought he was." Far above, in his office, overlooking the city's glimmering lights, Marcus stood by the window. In his mind, Sophia's face and little Lily's laughter were vivid. He knew restoring the benefits wasn't just a business decision. It was a silent promise to her. "I will never let you or your daughter be afraid again." On a weekend afternoon, Central Park was livelier than usual. Children's laughter mingled with the buzz of seekers, and the breeze carried the faint scent of lavender along the pathways. Sophia sat on an old wooden bench, her eyes following Lily, who dashed back and forth gleefully with a cat-shaped balloon. For a brief moment, Sophia forgot the fatigue of her night shifts. Then, a familiar deep voice spoke behind her. "Looks like the princess is training for the Olympic long-distance run." Sophia startled and turned. Marcus stood there, sleeves of his shirt rolled neatly, hair tousled under the sunlight. No tailored suit, no gala spotlight, just a tall man with a simple smile. "What are you doing here?" Sophia asked wearily, her hand tightening on her bag strap. Marcus answered slowly, his gaze lingering on Lily with her balloon. "Just walking. Happened to run into you two." Sophia frowned slightly, clearly not ready to forgive. But before she could speak further, Lily spotted him. "Uncle Marcus," she squealed, running over and grabbing his large hand as naturally as if she'd always known it. "You have to play with me. Come on, come on." Marcus chuckled, caught off guard by the little girl's determined tug. He glanced at Sophia for permission, but Lily was already dragging him along. Sophia sighed, though the corner of her lips curved faintly. The playground slide was crowded with kids. Lily scrambled up, then looked back and shouted, "You have to sit with me, Uncle, right next to me. I'm bigger than this whole slide," Marcus said awkwardly, eyeing his very unsuitable clothes for climbing. "Doesn't matter. The bigger you are, the faster you slide," Lily declared. From below, Sophia crossed her arms, her eyes flashing with mischief. "If you're scared, you can just say no. No one will laugh." Marcus raised an eyebrow, stung in his pride. "Who said I'm scared?" He attempted the tiny ladder. Kids around him gawked at the strange grown-up joining in. When he finally sat beside Lily at the top, he sighed. "All right, princess. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Lily counted, and down they went. The result was less than graceful. Marcus's long legs tangled, his balance failed, and he crashed onto the ground right in front of Sophia. Thud. A spectacular fall for a second silence. Then Lily burst out laughing, clutching her belly. You slid like a tumoring bear. Sophia, who had been trying to keep a straight face, broke into uncontrollable laughter. Her bright, ringing laugh filled the park. For the first time in days she had laughed so freely. Marcus sat up, brushing sand from his shirt. But as he looked at mother and daughter laughing, he felt no shame, only a strange lightness in his heart. After the failed slide experiment, the three of them sat on the grass. Lily nibbled an ice cream bar, eyes sparkling, while Marcus sat beside her, leaning back on his hands, listening patiently as she chatted about random stories. Sophia, though still cautious, had to admit that few men would show such patience. A man weighed down with endless business. Yet here he was, giving his whole afternoon to listen to a little girl ramble without ever seeming bored. As the sun dipped golden, Lily suddenly stopped and stared at Marcus for a long moment. Then, in her clear, innocent voice, she said, "I wish you were really my dad." The world seemed to fall silent. The seekers, the children's laughter all faded. Sophia froze, her heart tightening painfully. She quickly reached out, stroking her daughter's hair. "Lily, don't say such things." But Marcus said nothing. He only sat there, his grey-blue eyes trembling, fixed on the small, earnest face of the child. A warmth surged through his chest, breaking the cold wall he had built for 10 years. After his wife's death, he had thought he'd never hear words like that again. Yet here, a 6-year-old girl had spoken aloud the very thing his heart had longed for. Marcus drew a deep breath, then smiled gently. "Thank you, Princess. I'll remember that forever." Lily didn't understand the depth of his words. She just grinned and finished her ice cream. But Sophia understood. She caught Marcus's gaze, a look that held something entirely different. Not the authority of a CEO, but the longing of a man who yearned for a home. Quickly, she turned away, hiding the tremor inside her. But she knew that moment had changed everything. As night fell, Sophia took Lily's hand and stood. Marcus walked beside them, silent. Yet in his heart, one truth rang clear. The door that had been shut tight for 10 long years had finally begun to open. Todd Granger sat alone in a near-empty bar, his hand gripping a glass of whiskey. The demotion notice announced yesterday had driven him into a rage. Once smug from currying favor with his superiors, he now found himself stripped of power overnight, and in his bitterness, he needed a scapegoat. In his mind, Marcus Hale's face burned, declaring the restoration of benefits for the lowest employees. But what stung Todd most was Marcus's words in that boardroom. "A single mother," Todd sneered. "Sophia Ramirez, so you're the one." Rumors began to spread, fueled by anonymous emails sent to reporters. A janitor seduces the CEO for special favors. Attached were grainy photos of Marcus and Sophia sitting together in the soup diner. It didn't take much, just enough to spark the fire. Days later, a tabloid headline screamed powerful CEO secret affair with a young janitor. A photo of Marcus leaning down to listen to Lily had been cropped to look intimate. Social media swarmed with malicious comments, so that's why the benefits came back so fast. She must have used her charms. Sophia read the article while tidying shelves at work. Her hands trembled, her heart hammering. Heat rushed to her face as she saw the cruel words. "Oh my God," she whispered, feeling like her chest was being torn apart. That night, in their small apartment, Lily slept soundly while Sophia sat biting her lip until it bled. Marcus's face haunted her with the bad jokes, the warm soup, the tumble on the slide. All of it had been twisted into a public farce. With tears dripping onto her keyboard, she typed a resignation letter. "I don't want to cause you any more trouble," she wrote to Marcus. Her vision blurred as she hit send. The next morning, Halemart headquarters swarmed with reporters. Cameras flashed and voices shouted as Marcus stepped out of his car. "Mr. Hale, is it true you're involved with a low-level employee? Did you restore benefits as an act of favoritism in exchange for her affection?" Marcus stopped, his eyes like ice. He stood tall at the top of the steps, as flashbulbs strobed around him. After a long pause, he spoke, each word clear and unwavering. "The woman you're talking about, Sophia Ramirez, doesn't need to seduce anyone to earn respect. It is the strength of a single mother that made me admire her and love her." The world seemed to freeze, Reporters stared in shock before erupting into a frenzy of shouted questions, but Marcus strode past them into the building, leaving the chaos behind. Inside, he called the legal department. His voice was sharp as steel. "Open an internal investigation. I want every piece of evidence about who spread these rumors. If it's Todd Granger, prepare his termination papers immediately." Meanwhile, in her apartment, Sophia sat stunned before the TV. The news replayed Marcus's statement. The moment she heard the word love, her heart clenched painfully. You're insane," she whispered, her hand trembling against her chest. But in her tearful eyes, for the first time in days, a spark of light glimmered. He hadn't denied her, he hadn't hidden. He had stood before the world, cameras flashing, and chosen to defend her. 3 days later, the investigation confirmed Todd was behind the smear. He was immediately fired and faced a lawsuit for defamation. Marcus stood at the press conference, not just as CEO but as a man. "We will never tolerate lies meant to tear down our employees. Sophia Ramirez is proof that the resilience of a single mother deserves more respect than any number on a financial report." The room erupted in applause, but for Marcus, the sound was distant. In his heart, there was only the image of Sophia and little Lily. The employee break room after closing was as quiet as an abandoned train car at night. The fluorescent lights hummed softly, the water boiler wheezed, and the scent of cheap coffee mingled with the faint odor of faded disinfectant after a long day. Sophia set her mop aside, pulled off her rubber gloves, the skin of her fingers still marked red. "Thank you for staying," Marcus said, closing the door behind him. Tonight he wore only a white shirt, its sleeves rolled neatly, no tie and no polish. "What's so important you had to meet here?" Sophia asked, pulling out a chair, trying to keep her voice even. The break room isn't exactly a CEO's stage." "That's exactly why," Marcus replied. "This is where I first heard you cry. If I have something serious to say, I want to say it where it all began." He stood across the metal table where they once shared a sandwich, close enough to be present but not overbearing, no preamble, no performance. "I've lived like a shadow for 10 years, Sophia. I worked. I showed up. I said the right things, but I was never really there. The night I heard you cry over that insurance email, that shadow cracked. Then came the soup. Lily's little stories and her words, 'I wish you were really my dad.' All of it lit something inside me. I don't want to analyze it anymore. I just want to live there with you and your daughter." Sophia clenched her hands, meeting his eyes. The anger from the gala was gone, but the weariness of a woman who had carried herself too long remained. "Marcus, I don't need a fairy tale," she said slowly. "I need a schedule that's real. Tomorrow, next week, when the hospital calls, when HR sends the wrong email, when things go bad. Where will you be here?" he said without hesitation. "And I'll be there when things go bad. Not with flowers or speeches, but by showing up on time, listening all the way through, and standing straight when it matters." He pulled a small ring box from his pocket and set it on the scratched metal table. The gesture was so plain it made her throat tighten. "I didn't bring flowers," Marcus smiled faintly. "I brought the courage I owed you." Then he knelt. No drama. The floor was cold, Sophia thought briefly, and the rawness of it made the moment more real. "Sophia Ramirez, give me the chance to be your husband and to be Lily's father." He opened the box. A simple platinum band gleamed beneath the harsh fluorescent light. Sophia bit her lip. She glanced around the room, the vending machine that rattled, the lockers with peeling labels, the sagging plastic chairs. This was the place where she once felt small and alone. Now, not quite. "You're the only billionaire I know who would choose a break room to propose," she whispered with a teary smile. "Because here you don't have to pretend," Marcus answered softly, "and neither do I." A short silence, the water boiler clicked like a nod. "I have conditions," Sophia said, her voice steadier. "Clause 1. You keep your promises to employees and to family. No bending for convenience. No softening to make it easy." "Agreed." Clause 2. When you're tired, say you're tired. When you're scared, say you're scared. No vanishing into work. "Agreed." Clause 3. Friday, 700 p.m. No matter how busy you are, home for dinner. Carved in stone, Marcus smiled, his eyes warm. Sophia extended her left hand. Marcus slid the ring on. His hand was warm, trembling slightly, the kind of trembling that gave weight to a promise. "And your condition?" she asked, granting him a moment longer on one knee, as if it were a ritual earned. "Only one. Don't carry everything alone anymore. Give me the right to share the weight," Marcus said quietly, pressing his forehead against her knuckles. A silent vow. He rose. No rush, no display. They simply stood close, breathing into the same quiet space. "No champagne here," Marcus said, glancing at the vending machine. "But there's instant coffee. Let's toast with what's real." "Let's try it." Sophia laughed softly. He fed a few coins into the machine. It swallowed them with a harsh clunk, then went dead. Marcus frowned at it like a bad merger, tapped once and clang, a can rolled out. Sophia burst into laughter, a clear and bright sound that broke the last tension. To kindness, she raised the can. To standing tall, he tapped his against hers. And to showing up on time, they said together. The kiss came late, short, quiet. No rush, no props, just a comma between two people who had finished setting the terms. Sophia opened her locker and peeled off an old sticky note inside. "Keep going. Just get through today." She replaced it with a new one. "From now on, not alone." She smoothed it flat. "Tomorrow I'll tell the manager," she said, dropping the empty can into the recycling bin, "that the CEO lingered a bit too long in the break room tonight. And I'll tell legal." Marcus chuckled, setting a chair back in place. "That even a CEO must follow protocol except when proposing." "Punishable by a night of dishwashing," Sophia teased. "Or worse," Marcus smiled. "As long as it's together." They switched off the light. Before closing the door, Sophia looked once more at the room that had once been her refuge of fear. Now it was only a room because fear no longer lived here alone. "Let's go home," she said. "Let's go home." Marcus echoed. The hallway was empty. Their footsteps fell in even rhythm. In Marcus's pocket, his phone buzzed with a party invite, a board presentation for tomorrow. He silenced it. Tonight, his calendar was already full. Outside, the city roared on, but between them was a calm just enough. No fireworks, no soundtrack, just two adults in the place where pain once lived, laying down a simple promise. From now on, together, they chose a boutique hotel perched on a hilltop, neither ostentatious nor refined. The ballroom gleamed with marble floors, high ceilings draped with crystal chandeliers, and glass walls that opened to a city glittering like a man-made galaxy. The air carried the faint perfume of white orchids. A string quartet played softly in the corner. Low candles flickered on each table. It was both grand and intimate. Sophia entered in a strapless satin gown, her wrist adorned with her mother's pearl bracelet. Her hair was swept into a low bun, a few loose strands framing her face just so. She was unaccustomed to shine, but tonight simplicity itself made her radiant, the quiet glow of someone who had lived, endured, and found warmth again. At the front, Marcus waited in a midnight blue tuxedo and black bow tie. No bodier, only a small pin with the Hailmart logo, his private reminder. From the everyday world, he came to the ceremony, and from this ceremony he would return, but with a new role. The doors opened. Lily appeared first in an ivory chiffon dress, clutching a basket of petals. She took a deep breath, walking carefully down the aisle, scattering blossoms like tiny drops of sunlight. Her cheeks flushed pink with nerves. Halfway down, she turned to Marcus and whispered, though the mic caught it, "Daddy, don't forget to smile." Laughter rippled through the hall. Marcus nodded, his lips softening into a smile. Sophia followed, holding a bouquet of orchids. Each step was a small milestone she had conquered. The whispers of her past, the long night shifts, the emails that made her curl inward, they all receded, leaving only Marcus's gaze fixed on her, waiting. The officiant, a city clerk with a calm, warm voice, spoke. "This is a small wedding, but the promises here are not small. They are lived out in family dinners, in school notes, in how we show up for one another." Marcus took Sophia's hand, steady and warm. He spoke first. "I, Marcus, promise to be present, not only when life is easy. I promise to make informed decisions, both at work and at home. When there's bad news, I'll read it with you. When words run dry, I'll still have a story, even a bad one, to remind us we're still talking. I promise dinner on time and a lifetime of never leaving." Sophia smiled, her eyes shimmering. I, Sophia, promise to tell the truth, to say I'm tired when I'm tired, to admit fear when I'm afraid. I promise not to carry everything alone, but to let you share the weight. I promise our home will always have a proper meal, and that Lily will grow up in a house where apologies are made and mistakes are mended. The platinum rings clicked together with a faint clink, sealing the vow. The quartet shifted into a slow melody. Applause rose from the rows of guests. The stockroom clerk in a blue dress, the security guard in a borrowed suit, the cashiers beaming with pride. No longer subordinates and boss, but witnesses who had seen the three of them struggle and now stood to bless them. The cocktail reception began. Jazz flowed into the air. Pomegranate spritzers gleamed in crystal glasses. Small trays of canapes made their way around. Janelle, the store manager, raised her glass. To the couple who know how to show up. Laughter and clinking glasses rang clear. During the open mic segment, guests surprised them. The bakery supervisor, usually stern, sang a tender French ballad that hushed the room. The security guard, normally speaking, only used radio call codes, dedicating a country love song, off-key but heartfelt. People laughed, applauded, and the ordinary dust of everyday life turned into the unique spice of this elegant but unpretentious evening. Then came the first dance. Marcus offered his hand. Sophia placed hers in his. They drifted across the marble floor, chandeliers scattering light like stardust. "Stand tall," she whispered. "Always," he replied, resting his hand on her back, close enough for heart to meet heart, far enough for each to remain themselves. Halfway through, Lily tapped Marcus's arm. "One turn with me." He grinned, lifted her, spun her gently, then set her between them, turning the first dance into a family dance. The room burst into applause. Later, conversation buzzed softly. Marcus didn't retreat to a corner, didn't hide behind phone calls. He listened to the stockroom clerk's concerns about her mother's upcoming surgery, instructing HR to expedite support. He thanked a cashier for covering a shift when Lily was ill. For one night, authority stepped back. Presence stepped forward. Near the end, Janelle took the mic again, smiling. "We have a little surprise for the bride and groom." The big screen lit up with a homemade video from the store staff. Snippets played. Sophia laughing behind her mask as she found a water bottle for a rush customer. Marcus in casual clothes pushing a cart for an elderly man. Lily clutching her mother's hand, dozing in the break room. The clip ended with simple words, "Thank you for showing up." Sophia covered her mouth, tears spilling. Marcus squeezed her hand. The music softened. He whispered, "I owe you and Lily a lifetime of showing up." She nodded. "We owe each other honesty." Their smiles needed no more words. The cake arrived one tier, simply frosted, crowned with strawberries and mint. The knife gleamed under the lights. Marcus placed his hand, and Sophia laid hers atop his. Lily counted 1, 2, 3. To her, 3 meant one thing together. The first slice went to the oldest staff members present, the second to Janelle, the third to Lily, who bit into it with squinting delight. Guests drifted away. Outside, the city blazed on. Inside, the candles dwindled low. The musicians packed their instruments. Chairs scraped. Soft good nights were said. At last, the ballroom was still, leaving only the 3 of them. Sophia sat on the edge of the stage, slipping off her heels, rubbing her ankles. Marcus untied his bow tie, exhaling like a man who had finally laid down a heavy day. Lily clutched her petal basket, still running up and down the steps, scattering tiny bursts of happiness. "Daddy," Lily called, stopping in front of Marcus. He crouched to her height. "I need to say something." "I'm listening," Marcus said solemnly. He knew children's important words deserve respect. "I have a real dad now," Lily said, her voice clear as spring water. She paused, her eyes shining brighter. "But sometimes, can you take me to school so I can show you to my friends? Also, my teacher says my notebook needs Dad's signature." The words pierced deep. 10 years of solitude, hotel nights, cold dinners, early runs to avoid facing himself, folded into a thin crease, then vanished. His eyes burned. He didn't look away. "I'll take you to school," he said, voice rough with tears, but steady. "Not just sometimes. I'll make time for it. And I'll sign your notebook. If my handwriting's bad, your mum can teach me." He turned to Sophia, eyes wet, but smiling. She laid a hand on his shoulder, kissed his temple. "Your handwriting's fine," she teased softly. "What matters is you're on time." Lily threw her arms around both their necks, pulling them into a small, tight embrace. In that circle, unfinished things, new habits to build, and unspoken struggles all finally had a place to rest. Marcus stood, lifting Lily and draping his jacket gently over her. He and Sophia stepped out to the glass balcony. The city sprawled below, planes blinked above. A taxi's yellow light curved on the streets. Life roared and rushed on. But here, on the edge of an elegant yet tender wedding night, was a quiet, just enough to hear their own hearts. "Let's go home," Sophia said, as she had once in their hardest days. "Let's go home," Marcus echoed. He signed his name into the night, not on paper, but into tomorrow's calendar. 7:25 a.m. Take Lily to school. As they passed the great hallway mirror, three figures stretched long, a man no longer a shadow, a woman no longer bearing everything alone, and a little girl clutching her petal basket, drowsy but smiling. Marcus caught the reflection and smiled through his tears. After 10 years of emptiness, he had finally found home.